You're about to fall asleep. Suddenly, the faint wail of air raid sirens cuts through the night, news anchors scramble to deliver updates, and social media explodes with panic. Words like escalation, tactical strike, and nuclear deterrence flood every screen. For a moment, the world holds its breath. Could this really be happening? Nuclear war, a concept so catastrophic, you'd think you'll get to see the end of One Piece before it ever happens. Yet history shows us it's not just possible, but something humanity has flirted with time and time again. So the burning question is, could a nuclear war actually happen? And more importantly, what would it mean for humanity if it did? But first, let's talk a bit about the nuke history. Nuclear weapons, the perfect, oops, we went too far moment in human history. It all kicked off in 1945 when the US decided to play a game of vaporized city tag with Japan. Hiroshima and Nagasaki were reduced to rubble, and the world collectively said, wow, maybe we should not do that again. And then we never did. The end. Just kidding, we did not learn that lesson. Then came the Cold War, a decades-long standoff where the US and Soviet Union hoarded nukes like squirrels, stockpiling radioactive acorns. The strategy? Mutually assured destruction. Translation, if I die, you die too, and we'll drag the rest of the planet down with us. The highlight of this questionable diplomatic move was the Cuban Missile Crisis of 1962. For 13 tense days, the world came this close to total annihilation. The Soviets were parking missiles in Cuba because nothing says, I hate my neighbor, like parking nukes in their backyard. Of course, Uncle Sam wasn't having it, and 6 billion butts clenched as they braced for a nuclear apocalypse. But then, the Soviets said, you know, if you pinky swear you're not going to invade Cuba anymore and remove some nukes from Turkey and Italy, then we'll leave, ooh. And the US said, no cap fam, for real. Or something like that. I'm no historian. But that was 60 years ago. So how are we looking today? As of today, 9 countries proudly, and by proudly I mean terrifyingly, possess nuclear weapons with their finger hovering over the big red button, like it's the launch screen for the new TikTok dance. And these are the US, Russia, China, France, the UK, India, Pakistan, Israel, and North Korea. Let's start with the heavyweights. The US and Russia own roughly 90% of the world's nukes, because obviously 2 countries with a history of trust issues need enough firepower to obliterate Earth several times over. Their arsenals sit around 12,000 warheads combined. It's like if you had a bazooka under your bed in case an intruder comes inside your home. A bit overkill. Then there's China, building up its arsenal faster than it's building highways. France and the UK also have a respectable stash, because you can't call yourself a world power without the ability to ruin the planet. As for India and Pakistan, these 2 neighbors have a rivalry so intense they couldn't settle for cricket matches, they had to get nukes. Then there's Israel, which doesn't officially have nukes, but wink wink nudge nudge, totally does. And finally North Korea, the kid at the back of the class who keeps yelling, look at me, while chucking missiles into the sea. Nuclear warfare today isn't just about angry leaders with launch codes. One glitchy radar, one misinterpreted signal, or one politician having a really bad Monday, and it's mushroom clouds for everyone. Alright, so how does this nuclear nightmare actually start? The good news being that it's not likely to happen. Scenario 1, political tantrum gone wrong. Imagine 2 world leaders, one with a terrible orange tan, and the other overweight with a terrible haircut. The characters and events depicted in this work are fictitious. Any similarity to actual persons, living or dead, or to actual events is purely coincidental. The 2 leaders have egos bigger than their arsenals and are bickering over who gets to park their battleships where. Someone fires a warning shot because apparently nukes need to come with labels like not a toy, and suddenly retaliation escalates faster than a toddler's meltdown at a candy store. Welcome to mutually assured destruction. Scenario 2, the good old computer glitch. In 1983, a Soviet officer named Stanislav Petrov stopped nuclear war by deciding not to trust his radar. Imagine that our current survival depended on one guy thinking, probably a false alarm. This sounds crazy, but it could happen again. We never know when Windows is gonna glitch out and warn of incoming nukes. Scenario 3, rogue nation or terrorist group. I know it sounds like I'm talking about a Tom Cruise movie, but what if a rogue nation, or worse, a terrorist group, gets their hands on some nukes and decides to play the apocalypse card? Unlike major powers, these folks don't care about mutually assured destruction. Their motto is more along the lines of, let's see how much chaos we can cause before lunch. Scenario 4, Accidental Trigger. A conventional war breaks out between nuclear-armed countries, and someone gets a little too trigger-happy. A tactical nuke gets launched, the other side responds, and before you know it, everyone on Earth is as burned as a German on holidays in Spain. So let's say the unthinkable happens. Someone presses a big red button, and boom! Mushroom clouds on the weather forecast. You'd think the worst part is the explosions, right? Wrong. That's just the opening act in this apocalyptic nightmare. First, there's the instant carnage, or as some might say, a monster kill. A single nuclear blast can level a city, turning buildings into rubble and people into shadows on the pavement. If you're lucky enough to survive the initial shockwave, congratulations! You've now earned yourself a front row seat to the firestorm, a raging inferno sucking the oxygen out of the air. Breathing is overrated anyway. If somehow you escaped all of this, I hope your wardrobe has a hazmat suit, because now there's radiation fallout. Those exposed to the blast will face radiation sickness, which comes with delightful side effects like vomiting, burns, and your DNA deciding to split like Daft Punk. And for those further away, fallout will rain down like deadly confetti, contaminating everything it touches: water, crops, soil, and you. But even if you're not in the zone where the blasts are happening, you might still be in for a nuclear winter, and let me tell you right now, it's not the kind of winter where you warm up in front of the fireplace with a cup of hot cocoa. Basically, when enough nukes go off, all that smoke and soot from burning cities gets blasted into the atmosphere, blocking out sunlight. That means a global temperature drop so severe that agriculture grinds to a halt, which means endless cold, failing crops, and mass starvation. It's like climate change, but with an express ticket to extinction. And don't forget the social collapse. Governments fall, resources vanish, and humanity descends into a Mad Max-style free-for-all. Only instead of cool leather jackets and tricked-out cars, you'll be fighting over canned beans and clean water. I hope you've learned a lot from playing video games like Metro, 'cause you're gonna need it. A nuclear war wouldn't just kill millions in an instant. It would rewrite Earth's future. Entire regions would turn into lifeless zones. Civilization wouldn't just crumble, it would vanish, leaving behind a scarred, radioactive wasteland where survival isn't just unlikely, it's almost impossible. Earth would never be the same, and humanity might not live long enough to notice. So here's the million-dollar question. Could a nuclear war actually happen? The unfortunate answer is yes, it could. Humanity has proven time and time again that if there's a terrible idea, someone, somewhere will eventually try it. But the good news? So far, we've managed to tiptoe around the apocalypse, mostly thanks to diplomacy, fear, and a healthy dose of luck. Right now, the stakes are higher than ever. With 9 nations armed to the teeth and global tension simmering like a poorly watched pot, the potential for catastrophe is real. But if history has taught us anything, it's that the greatest threat to humanity isn't nukes, it's humans themselves. Remember, we're talking about those same creatures who routinely text LOL while crashing into telephone poles. The fact that we didn't accidentally blow up the planet already is nothing short of a miracle. Here's the bottom line. Nuclear war is not just a bad idea, it's the bad idea. It's the ultimate lose-lose scenario where everyone gets a participation trophy in the form of radiation sickness. The only way to win is to not play the game at all. Now, if you're interested in learning more about global issues and survival scenarios, subscribe to Bobby Catastrophe and join us on this journey of uncovering the world's biggest threats.